On behalf of the library trustees, welcome to our annual Candidates Night. It's one of our favorite events here, and we appreciate you coming in on such a lovely evening. So before I get started on tonight's program, our library director, Ryan Donovan, wants to say just a few words to you.
Okay, well, sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Donovan, and I am the director of the Southborough Library. Welcome to Candidates Night. This annual event is hosted by the library's Board of Trustees. This evening exemplifies the board's responsibility to civic engagement and reflects the fact that each board member themselves is elected by the residents of Southborough to their position. Our trustees include Richard Wallace, Judy Butts, Nancy Mayo, Marguerite Landry, Nicole DeBonnet, and Jane Smith. If you'll indulge me for a moment, Candidates Night also marks my one-year anniversary as director. The board has been instrumental in my success, in particular trustee chair Jane Smith. As you may or may not know, Jane is stepping down as library trustee this year. Her steadfast dedication to the library behind the scenes has been inspirational, and I believe it is important to honor her beyond a simple thank you. As a result, I'd like to present Library Trustee Jane Smith with the inaugural Peggy Tuttle Award for Library Service Distinction. Is designed to honor an individual's long commitment and hard work above and far beyond their expected role, be it trustee, library staff member, or volunteer. The award honors longstanding staff member Peggy Tuttle, who gave the Southborough Library over 30 years of service as an employee. She passed away last year and is greatly missed by all who knew her. The Peggy Tuttle Award honors her memory and will serve to highlight a member of our community who deserves special recognition for their accomplishments. Please join me in congratulating Jane Smith, the first person to receive the Peggy Tuttle Award for Library Service.
Well, that was a complete surprise, and I'm very touched for a variety of reasons, one of which is that Peggy and I were good friends. I worked here many moons ago with Peggy, and she's one of my favorite people. So thank you. We have a slight change in the program from what was advertised. Everybody has a ballot on their chair. There's one race that does not exist anymore. Rose Morrow has suspended her candidacy for the Board of Health, but did not pull her name in time to get off the ballot. So who knows? Someone might have an interesting question for our town clerk candidates about how, what happens if she gets elected. So I want to recognize everyone who is running for something, because really you're only going to hear from people in the two contested races, town clerk and selectman. But I know that we have a lot of candidates here who are running unopposed, and I would like to recognize them. So if you are on the ballot this year, please stand and introduce yourself. We'll do it in somewhat of an orderly way.
Nicole DeBonnet. I'm running for trustee of the library.
Dan O'Rourke, and I'm running for Board of Health.
Kathy Harrigan, and I'm running for Northwest Southborough Regional School District.
And I see Terry back here.
Terrence Ryan, I'm running for the Board of Trustees of the library.
We'll hear from you.
They're yelling at me, so.
Jesse Stein, I'm running for Planning Board.
Bob Jackless, Housing Authority.
Okay. Anyone else who would like to be recognized?
Mr. Wilson.
Well, yes.
Well,
Mr. Wilson is running. Yes, indeed, he's running.
for the,
And serving as our referee.
Commissioner of Trust Funds.
Right.
So I appreciate your vote if you...
Okay, so very quickly, we are going to bring up the candidates for town clerk, and they will be able to make 2-minute statements, and then we'll open it up to you folks. You can ask any question you like. I think we don't have a mic set up out there, so we'll have to pass this mic to you, and I think we want you to ask your question over here so it can be picked up by the camera. This is being filmed so that many more people can see it on cable access. And then the candidates will have a 2-minute rebuttal at the end, and they can make a rebuttal, they can ask a question of their opponent, whatever they would like. So I think that's it for my part. I'm going to turn it over to John, who will give you some ground rules.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Jane. I did a little, before we get on the ground rules, I first wanted to, Jane had introduced, or people introduced themselves running for office, but I also wanted to point out, as Ryan did, that Jane is completing 9 years of service on the Library Board of Trustees, and Dr. Louis Faison, sitting here to my left, is completing 12 years on the Board of Health. So I want to thank both of them for long terms of service, and we certainly appreciate it. I spent just a few minutes today looking up some things in the town report, and I won't get off on a tangent, but there are 43 elected officials in Southborough and 365 different appointed positions, and many of you here serve on some of those boards. But for me, I'm always very grateful for of course I was one of them, but very grateful for the people that do come out and volunteer to serve on these committees and boards. And if there are folks here tonight that feel they want to get involved, they can feel welcome to go to the town hall, register their name, pick one of these committees that they might be interested in, and usually there's not a lot of competition for them, so you stand a good chance of getting appointed. So we'd all appreciate that. Now, this debate is going to run basically the same way as we did last year. Each candidate, and we have the 2 races, the town clerk and the board of selectmen. So each candidate in a contested race will be invited to make a 2-minute introductory statement. They'll be sitting up here at the front tables. And we'll try to enforce the time limits as best we can, but we're not going to cut off anybody in mid-sentence. The order of either the town clerk race or the selectman race was determined by Jane Smith and me. So you have to trust us by a coin flip. And so it will be the town clerk candidates first, and then the selectmen. Following the 2-minute opening statements by the candidates, there will be a question and answer period. And anybody that has a question and feels so inclined to ask it, I think we only have the 1 microphone. So, okay, there's another one here. So come up to the front and use this microphone stand over there and address your question to either candidate, both candidates, and then hand the microphone to the next person in line, please. When all the questions have been asked, there will be a 2-minute rebuttal, or 2 minutes for each candidate to say more if they wish. And that will be about it. I also had asked if I could ask a question, so I might have a question tonight for each candidate. It won't be a tough one, but we might ask. So, at this time, if I could ask the 2 candidates for town clerk, Dorian Jasinski and Jim Haggerty, to come forward, sit at the table, we would appreciate it. Now,
Nicole is our timer. She will let people know in 30 seconds and 10 seconds.
so, for the front table, you can, sit on the same side or opposite sides. You can side by side. And using the same coin toss method that we use to decide the town clerk or selectman, Jane and I tossed the same coin again, and for the town clerk candidates, Dorianne was the winner of the first place. So it's your opportunity. Well, you could think of that any way you wish. But I want to hand you the microphone for a 2-minute or approximately 2-minute statement of your goals. Okay. Well, they're recording, but it helps them to record it on television and so forth. So if you could do that, that would be great.
Good evening. Thank you to the library trustees for inviting me to introduce myself tonight and to Mr. Wilson for moderating. I am privileged to be here with all of you. My name is Dorianne Jasinski and I am running for town clerk. During the past 46 years, the role of town clerk has been admirably filled by Paul Barrett. I have immense respect for Paul and would be honored to continue his legacy in the town clerk's role. My family and I have been members of this community for 21 years. Over the past 2 decades, I have proven my commitment and love of Southborough. In that time, I have volunteered in the schools, chaired fundraisers for the schools, and worked on several committees. I founded and led the Southborough Education Foundation, chaired the Southborough Town Scholarship Advisory Committee, worked on various election campaigns, co-chaired the Care Packages for Troops Drive, and was awarded the Massachusetts Unsung Heroine Award from the state in 2011 for my community service dedication. And I've worked with the town clerk's office for 13 years on elections. Presently, I'm the election warden in Precinct 2, and I am the chair of the Southborough Advisory Committee, which I'm stepping down from after 15 years. I am a graduate of Providence College and was a Dean's List student there. Prior to raising my 3 children with my husband, Larry, I had a successful management career at Neiman Marcus and other management roles that have taught me basic skills to run an organization. In my leadership roles, both in business and on town committees, I've had to work with budgets, strategic planning, and needed attention to detail skills. As keeper of the records, the town clerk's role is vital in the maintenance and safeguarding of the town's records, in accordance with established state statutes. The essential elements of the role include, but are not limited to, being a source of information to the public, management and keeping of all permanent records in the town, overseeing town, state, and federal elections, and understanding and implementing over 300 state laws as well as the town bylaws. In the spirit of preparation for this role, I have met and spent countless hours with the town clerk in another town to get a better understanding of what the job entails. I see the town clerk's position as the next step in my efforts to serve this community in a meaningful way, utilizing my best skills in leading, organizing, and accomplishing needed change where necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorianne. Mr. Hagerty?
Hello, my name is Jim Hagerty. I'd also like to thank the library trustees and John for holding this. I'd like to recognize my Sally, who's in the back here. Sally and I have lived in town here for 23 years. We raised 3 children here in town that attended all the Southborough schools, went to Algonquin High School. All 3 of our kids went to the Naval Academy. My son Billy is a junior there. Our daughter Lizzie is just finishing 2 years of flight school. She'll be designated a Navy pilot next month. And our daughter Emily is serving on an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf today. I recently retired after 29 years as an FBI agent. I went to Babson College. I was an accountant. I worked at the Gillette Company for a while before I became an agent. In the years we've been in town, I volunteered in a number of activities, so I think I have a pretty good understanding of town government. I was chair of the Recreation Commission. I am a member of the Financial Advisory Committee here in town for 6 years. I've been a coach and a board member of the Ombudsman for the Boys Lacrosse program. I am the girls JV lacrosse coach at the high school. I've been a soccer coach, basketball coach, church volunteer. I volunteered at Algonquin High School for the prom night. By the way, we're looking for more people that want to join me spending it overnight. That's the reason I'm here. I'm a registered independent. When I grew up, my mom was a member of the Democratic Ward Committee, and my sister was a member of the Republican Ward Committee. So maybe for some interesting dinner conversation. Why am I running? It was actually a hard thing for me to articulate, but plain and simple, I enjoy public service. I really enjoyed my work as an FBI agent, helping people. It's not all about arresting people. I can't tell you the number of times I've spent a day in somebody's house and I was looking at this audience, and there were times when I spent an entire day in an elderly person's home waiting for a con man to show up and take money from them. It's a great deal of satisfaction in helping people doing that. I'm committed to this town. When I retired, we made a decision we're going to stay here. I'm not from here. I grew up in Jamaica Plain. I couldn't have found Southborough for $1 million if you could say that. But this is where we want to end up. The things that I've done in the FBI, not just as an agent, investigating crimes and so forth, a lot of those skills actually match up. It's not all about jumping out of airplanes with, ninja suits and stuff like that. Dealing with a lot of highly sensitive personal information requiring tact and diplomacy, interact with people from all walks of life, and one thing we learned is you treat everybody with respect. I don't care what your station in life is. The people that know me on the committees and the coaching and stuff, what you see is what you get. If you come into the town hall, if I'm lucky enough to get that position, this is the way I am, this is the way I treat everybody. As an FBI, from all the different assignments I had researched zillions of different federal rules, different regulations, different policies. I developed storage, retention, and evidence policies for drug vaults for the FBI's largest division. In terms of automation issues, I supervise the FBI's cybercrime and forensic investigation. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I would focus on automation issues, improving online access, working for greater voter participation, especially kids. You look around town meeting, and it's rare to see a face under 40 years old there. Look at all the 18-year-old kids that aren't voting and aren't really getting introduced into public service. I'd like to tap into that. I look into storage issues here, not things that are stored at townhouse. What can we scan online? I spent a good deal of time with the town clerks at Ashland, Framingham, and Northborough. I've also been to the Secretary of State's office. Question how they handle minutes, things like that. So that's it. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for anybody that has a question, please feel free to come forward. The microphone is right here. Mr. Giovanni. I'll put this on.
Mr. Haggerty, at town meeting, when the budget for the Open Space Preservation Commission came up, you made some comments regarding a public records request that the commission had made. Could you elaborate on that tonight for the benefit of folks who aren't able to make town meeting, or to repeat what you said? Because I think it's very important.
What Mr. Giordino was referring to is a budget request. When the open space folks came before advisory committee, they had a budget request of $1,000, and the town manager's request recommendation was $250. And we asked what the delta was, why that was occurring. And what came up in the discussion was the fact that when the open space committee wanted copies of records for the Board of Selectmen, they were charged for them. Now that's a head scratcher to me. Why in the world are we charging the town committee to get access to town records? That doesn't make any sense to me. But honestly, we gave them the money in case they'd have to pay the bill, so they wouldn't have to dip in their own pocket. And we wanted to raise that as a transparency issue, that that's not the way the town should run. That group was also charged in the clerk's office to get copies of older records from town meeting. The CPC committee was charged to get copies of older documents when they wanted to research monies that had been put for projects that hadn't been spent so they could reclaim the money. I don't get that either. Why? Well, first of all, it goes to automation. That stuff should be online, you should be able to access it. But number two, everybody should be treated the same, regardless of whether you agree with them politically, whether you don't agree with them politically, whether it's a committee that's in favor, out of favor. Everybody gets treated the same. That's what it should be. And that's how that issue came to light. It's not, if I am fortunate enough to get your vote, I would never charge a town committee for a practice.
Louis Faze and Truesdale Road. To both candidates, what do you think is the single most important attribute needed for the next town clerk?
You want to take that first story, Joe?
Somebody said something, it's been very interesting going to the transfer station. You get to meet so many people that you haven't seen over the years. As your kids age out, all the kids just people you saw at soccer games and so forth. It's interesting to renew those friendships. And somebody said something to me there that also resonated with me, because somebody else said this to me a couple of weeks ago, and they said that the town clerk is the face of Southborough. That is the person that most new people see when they come to Southborough. That is the person you want to see. You want somebody who's going to be welcoming. I think you want somebody that can say no with a smile, and somebody who will listen to you. I guess in some respects, when I've been visiting all the different clerk's offices in the town, the town clerk and actually Tara Ward, who used to be the assistant town clerk here, told me in some respects the town clerk is the complaint center for the town. People can complain about, the selectmen complain about whatever the issue is. So you want someone who's going to listen to you and try to address and help you resolve those issues. That's one of my training agents at the FBI one time. In my career, I've had people treat me well, treat me improperly. I've had people use curse words together that I've never heard and scratch my head. But what you learn is that when people are emotional, it's sort of like standing at the beach. You let that wave crash over, you let the emotion get out of the argument. And I think you need somebody that will remove emotion from discussions, deal with the facts, and follow the rules precisely. Yet, if you have to say no to somebody, hopefully they will leave with a smile on their face, or they're satisfied.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
To me, the main purpose of the town clerk, the most important, is to serve the public. We are there to you, for you, we report to you, we are responsible to you, you vote us into office. And I agree with Jim. You have to meet and greet people, you have to be the face of your town, you want to seem friendly, you want to be a great listener. And people are going to come to you and they are going to complain, and you're not going to make everybody happy, but you're going to do the best you can. And it's all about the people and taking care of them and being good to them and treating them fairly. Everyone should be treated the same. There shouldn't be any difference.
Thank you, Dorian. Anyone else have a question? Okay, I'll ask my question then. And it's kind of the one that Jane mentioned. On the ballot for the Board of Health, a woman had taken out papers, turned them in on time, her name got on the ballot, and then she said that she was withdrawing her name. So on the ballot, there were two names for the Board of Health. Now, and I don't know the answer to this, but then maybe, I'm not sure who does, but let's say that other person defeats our only candidate. Do you know what happens? I mean, if a sticker candidate came in and beat them both, then that would be clear. The sticker candidate would win. But what if the one that said that she doesn't want it? Anybody? Dorian?
I believe that if the candidate has withdrawn, they're taken out of the race. So their name may be on the ballot, but it's irrelevant. So the person who's running, even if they got one vote, they would be the winner because they've withdrawn, so they can't win.
Want to venture a guess?
No, I will tell you something I learned in the FBI. There's a reason why there's a stack of law books behind Paul Sturry's desk. And only a fool guesses at a law. No, I don't know the answer, but I would look it up. Actually, what I would do is what I've already done already. I'll call the Secretary of State's office. I've already called them twice on stuff. And they have actually told people to call in with a question yourself. And boy, have I learned the hard way over time. Woe be the fool that trusts himself from memory. You look it up and you call the expert. So I do not know the answer. Yes, ma'am.
I know the answer.
Rhonda.
At least I think I know the answer. No. My name is Rhonda Russian, and I was at a retirement party for a good friend who used to work at DEP. His name is Paul Anderson. And Paul Anderson was very popular in the town of Holden. And he initially put in papers to run for some office. And then he decided that he was just too busy at DEP to do that because he would be doing all public service all the time. You know what I mean? He would be working day and night. So he withdrew his name. He told everybody that he wasn't running, but his name was already on the ballot, and he won. And apparently, he was elected to the office.
So, but you're going to venture a guess.
No, I have a fantasy idea. I have two questions. One, about the open meeting law. How critical is that to the position of town clerk? You monitoring that? And do you think our government is transparent enough at the moment? And my second question is, are there things that you would do to sort of modernize the office? Maybe, digitizing things or something like that?
We can't hear very well.
Okay. Well, I don't have the best voice either. Is it better? Is that? Well, you give it a shot.
Okay, this is part of the test, whether I see if I get I remember all three parts correctly, right? That's the fourth question.
Louder, please.
Okay, can you hear me back there now? The first question concerned open meeting, how important that is to the town and the town clerk's role in it. Okay. If we take a step back, the requirements that meetings be posted 48 hours before, the agendas be posted before the commencement of the meeting, it be held at a public place, is all to ensure transparency. We all agree with that. That leads into the second question about whether an opinion about how the government functions right now. That all gets down to perception. I spent 6 years on the advisory committee, and there are probably a lot of people here in this room that over time would disagree with individual decisions or recommendations of the advisory committee. But I'd be hard pressed to see anybody in this room say that they didn't think advisory was right out in the open. Every single email, every single decision, every document that advisory is involved with is posted on the website for everybody to see. What you see is what you get. And so I think across the board in town, the advisory committee has, people have a lot of confidence in it. That there's no backroom deals, that there's no shenanigans. People may disagree. Most of the time people at town meeting go with advisory, but sometimes they don't. But nonetheless, all of the issues we see, everything you see is out in the open. To my way of thinking, everything should be open. If there's a way to get any documents from the clerk's office available online, I would do that. There are some wrinkles in there though. For example, I bet you there's only a couple of people in town that have ever heard the term of a private birth. All right? Private birth records refer to documents, birth certificates where perhaps the father's name is not listed on the document. So those are restricted, and the clerk can't even acknowledge that such a thing exists unless one of the named people, the mother or the child on the birth certificate, comes in for it. There are a lot of restrictions as to things that can be put online. But let me jump back to the first thing about open meeting. Information only has value if citizens have it in time to make a decision or act upon it. So we go to the trouble to say, you have to post this 48 hours before the meeting. What happens next? Well, under the Massachusetts state laws, within 10 days of the meeting, a draft copy of the minutes have to be available to somebody upon request. Great idea. Now, where do you go to get that? And I'll tell you, even right now in advisory, we don't get our minutes done within 10 days because we don't have meetings in 10 days. Sometimes we've made a couple of months on the minutes. It's interesting to talk to Ashley. Ashley and Clerk actually has a requirement. It's in town regulation that within 10 days of the meeting, the draft copies of the minutes are actually posted online by the clerk's office. It's a requirement. Framingham actually goes a step further. Framingham actually has a bylaw that says within 45 days of the posting of a meeting, the minutes are posted online through the clerk's office. They're required to be sent electronically, but they also take a hard copy and they store that in the library. That is absolutely something that I look into. You know, I guess the devil's all in the details, how you deal with something like this, whether the minutes. I think the short answer is I think that would be a great thing to do. I'd like to do that. As far as automation, there's some other issues related to that. Something that needs some attention in the clerk's office has to do with storage of records. For example, the safe is not a fireproof safe. We don't have, all of our historical records are kept in the building. Even the microfilm copies, the microfiche copies of the records are stored in the same building. That's something we really need to look at. If we had a fire over there, an issue that should be stored off site premises. And another thing in terms of the records and the documents stored online, sometimes like Ashley have taken the time to take all of those records that are allowed to be available and have those scanned and they're available in that format. So those are some things we can take a look at.
Dorian, do you have a comment on the open meeting law?
Open meeting law, I think we have some issues with it. I don't think everybody, there are people who have been breaking the open meeting law, and I don't think they've even known about it. I think people need to be more educated about it, and they need to learn more about it. I think we should have some kind of a course to teach all of the committees and the elected officials. We all need to learn exactly what is entailed, because too many people are making mistakes, and they're not meaning to, and then there's ramifications to that. As far as the town clerk's office, I haven't been in there, and I don't know what database is or what Paul has set up. And we can talk about wanting to do changes and putting things online, but we don't know what is there right now. And I wouldn't want to say I'm going to go in and change everything until I've actually had hands-on working with everything and seeing what needs to be changed, if anything, that benefits the town. To change for the sake of change is not the right way either, so.
Okay. Well, you have a question? Okay. There's the microphone, Mr. Sell. And this will be we're just about on schedule. So this will be the last town clerk question, and then we'll go to the 2-minute closing statements, and then switch seats and go to the selectmen.
Yes, Ed Stella, Woodland Road, Southborough, Mass. My question has to do with electronic gathering of information. My question
Would you
is,
speak up, please?
Speak right into
the
the
question is about electronic gathering information and keeping of the records. For instance, if I was an architect and I was to send a set of plans via on the computer disk, the question is, how do you attest that, and how does that go into the records? Does it have to be a printed copy, or does it can it be filed electronically? And if it's filed electronically, how does everyone know on the different boards that they're getting the exact same document that you're getting as the town clerk? I know you can do document comparisons. There's very sophisticated software that will do that to see if there's changes in documents. The question is, how can you do it in a plan? Okay, to the second part of that, as far as the document comparison, it's called the hash algorithm. And it basically compares the two. But there are ways to place digital signatures on a file to ensure it's authentic, and there are ways to put a hash value on a file to ensure it's not.
Step over to your left a little bit.
Put my hands on the wall. Step away from the microphone. But those are the technical issues. But as a bigger picture, it's kind of interesting, because we had some discussions about this at advisory, about documents that came into the planning board. And when, for example, in a ZBA issue, when the filing comes to the clerk's office first and it starts the clock ticking, when somebody brings in a document to request a variance, it starts the clock ticking for the ZBA to work on those documents. So the question becomes, what if that document, what's the clerk's role function in this? And I don't know the answer. It's written some really interesting questions. Is it the clerk's function, or do they have the expertise or responsibility to ensure that that thing is fully complete? How do you do that? We asked some questions about some of the boards, and I believe, I talked to an engineer, civil engineer about that, and some of the people that have presented documents have said it's a hardship for them to present them electronically. They want to present a paper copy, which I think is just pure nonsense in this day and age to do that. The short answer, I don't know. I've heard things back and forth on that, and I don't know. It'd be very interesting. But the crux of the issue comes down to, is the clerk's responsibility, and I truly don't know this answer, is it the clerk's responsibility to ensure that a document is received and recorded as received? Or is it the clerk's responsibility, and even have knowledge, to know that everything is complete and so forth along the lines? The technical piece of it, handling something authentic, ensuring that it isn't altered, putting a hash value on it, the digital signatures, that's low-hanging fruit. That's an easy fix. But that other piece of it, who is the person that has the skills and should be deciding that an application is complete or not complete? Don't know the answer to that. Don't know.
You have a comment?
My comment is I honestly do not have a clue. I have no idea. I would have to find out and ask some people. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, so we'll go to closing statements for the town clerk candidates, and we'll reverse the order. Mr. Haggerty.
Thank you. You're going to have a long night here, so I'm not going to use my full 2 minutes. Here's what you can expect of me. I'm not putting on a show. This is who I am, good, bad, or indifferent. Bald head, no, I am what I am. Paul did tell me, by the way, if I was elected, my first order of business would be to get a wig. Now, I asked him whether that meant a powdered white wig coming down, because I know he's been there quite a while, but he didn't answer me. I treat everybody the same. I'll act with trust, dignity, integrity, and discretion. I'll follow all the rules properly and precisely, no favoritism, no bias, no prejudice. There's an awful lot to learn. I've talked to clerks who are involved in the training through the Massachusetts Clerks Association, the Worcester Clerks Association. The town clerk deals with 73 chapters and 451 sections of the Massachusetts General Law. Nobody's going to learn that overnight. Paul's been here for 46 years, and I think if Paul were here tonight, he'll tell you he didn't learn in the first year or the second year. I told you about the 3 towns I've gone to, talking to the AG's office, the Secretary of State's office. And a really good news for whoever you decide to elect. Our town clerk is going to be still here every morning at 9 o'clock at the spa for consultation if we need it. And we also have 2 terrific employees in town that will be around. They do a great job. I'm not looking to fill this job for 2 years. If that's who you want for your clerk, then I'm probably not the person to vote for. I had a terrific career for 29 years with the FBI. I would still be there today, but when you hit a certain age, they throw you out the door. That's the way it goes. I'm looking for a second career. I want to be your town clerk for the next 20 years. Paul has had this for 46 years. I don't think that God has his plans for me to be here for another 46 years. But I want to hope to be your town clerk for the next long time, for the next 2 years and then longer. And I ask you to please consider voting for me on May the 11th. Thank you.
Massachusetts.
In closing, I just want to say that this town is very fortunate to have 2 candidates who really want to have this position. It's a win-win for the town, in my opinion. Jim, if I weren't running against you, I'd be voting for you. So I really wish you the very best. I believe my community service, business experience, election experience, and knowledge of the requirements of the clerk's office make me the best candidate. I can promise full collaboration and cooperation with all boards, and I will do so with the trust and leadership you expect from your town clerk. I can fill the position with the integrity, singular dedication to the role, and effective organization that will maintain the standards needed for the town of Southborough. I'm asking for your vote on May 11th. Thank you.
And we'll take a 5-minute break as we clear this area of town clerk information. We're going to leave the windows open back there, please. And the selectmen candidates can come forward, take seats. Thank you.